All right, now it's time for an exercise. So open up exercise 1.js. Here we have a function called FizzBuz, which is one of the functions that sometimes comes in programming interviews. So this function takes an input. First, we check to see what is the type of this input. If it's not a number, we throw an error. Otherwise, if this input is divisible by 3 and 5, we'll return FizzBuz. If it's only divisible by 3, we'll return fizz. If it's only divisible by 5, we'll return buzz. And otherwise, if it's not divisible by 3 or 5, we'll simply return the same input. So I want you to pause the video and write all the required unit tests for this function. You're going to see my solution next. So in our test folder, I'm going to add a new file, exercise1.test.js. First, we need to load our exercise module. Let's store it in a constant called lib. We start with a describe block, FizzBuz, that's the function we're going to test. Here's the body of our describe block. The first test case. It should throw an exception if input is not a number. If input is not a number. So we can call lib.fizzbuzz, pass a string. Now, as I told you before, when testing exceptions, you need to wrap this in an arrow function. So we expect we pass an arrow function here and then call the FizzBuz method inside this function. Now we expect this to throw. Back in the terminal, all our tests are passing, beautiful. Now I'm going to duplicate this line. The second time I want to pass null. One more time, let's pass undefined. One more time, let's pass an object. So for any of these arguments, our FizzBuz method should throw an exception. Save. All our tests are passing, beautiful. Now let's write our second test case. The FizzBuz algorithm specifies that if input is divisible by 3 and 5, we should get FizzBuz. So it should return FizzBuz if input is divisible by 3 and 5. So we call lib.fizzbuzz. We can pass 15. If it works for 15, it's very likely that it's going to work for other numbers that are divisible by 3 and 5. So we don't need to include all numbers in the universe to test this function. So let's get the result and then expect result to be FizzBuz. Now in this particular case, I'm checking for this exact string match because that's exactly the output we expect from this algorithm. So this is not going to change in the future. Save. All tests are passing, beautiful. One more test case. So back to our FizzBuz function. If the input is only divisible by 3 but not 5, we should return fizz. So I'm going to duplicate this test case, change the label, should return fizz if input is divisible by 3. Or more accurately, if input is only divisible by 3. So we pass 3 here and expect fizz. Save. Back in the terminal. Everything passing. Beautiful. Now one more time. If the input is divisible only by 5, we should return buzz. So let's change the argument to 5 and expect to get buzz. Save. Back in the terminal. 12 tests are passing. And the last test case. If the input is neither divisible by 3 or 5, we should get the same input. So duplicate should return input if it is not divisible by 3 or 5. So let's pass 1 here. We expect to get 1 in the output. Back in the terminal, all tests are passing.